Hey, there's only 19 days before spring camp, so let's talk the offensive line.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I am your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you are watching on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free, and I really appreciate you coming along for the ride. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you are, hit that like button, and there's also that red subscribe button. Would love for you to click that, and to all of you who already have, thank you very, very much. Okay, the countdown continues. 19 days until spring camp kicks off. How's that, man? Shorts and shells, it's almost here. And I know I can't wait. It hasn't been a long off season. However, it's been long enough. Super Bowl's over. That means there's no more football until USFL. Well, check that out a little bit. Kind of got in. I was intrigued by that last year. I'm going to follow up on it this year. And spring camp schedule set, 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. I'm just waiting to find out the actual time for each of those days and what time the media should show up. And spring camp is going to be about what's coming up next for this team. That's what spring's all about. Spring hopes eternal. We know that Andrew Voorhees, Brett Nealon, and Bobby Haskins, those guys are gone. They've moved on to the next chapter in their lives. Hopefully the NFL for all three of them. But what do we know about that offensive line? Or a cliche about the offensive line. What makes it work is their cohesiveness, right? Their chemistry, working together. But what does that mean? What does an offensive line chemistry mean? Because I think it means more than just the camaraderie and being big and strong and fast, and obviously working well together. It's knowing how to. Chemistry is, at least with the offensive line, it's knowing how to react in certain situations, like during your blocking assignment, knowing where your guy is to your left or to your right, not throwing a defensive opponent, a player, into maybe one of your offensive linemen friends. It happens. It'll whether it's it's not always on purpose. Hopefully, it's never on purpose. But sometimes it means playing with discipline, and being responsible. As I said, knowing who's next to you, and a lot of that happens with your footwork. Guys get tangled up, so you might be off balance. All of a sudden, you're trying to block your guy, and you end up throwing him into the back of someone's ankle, knee, whatever, and they get rolled up on, and all of a sudden, that guy's on the bench with an injury. That happens, sometimes because you're being too aggressive with your opponent, and you're trying to send a message, and you throw them down. Well, sometimes you can't do that because you're in a phone booth, and as I mentioned, guys get hurt really easily. So, playing with that aggression, that's great, but chemistry along the offensive line, that's all about guys moving in unison. Think of it this way: pulling guards, when they're trapping. There's nothing more beautiful if you're a football fan than seeing a bunch of 300-pound hogs, big guys, just moving lightly on their feet, but they're in unison. The choreography is perfect, and then all of a sudden, when it looks like they're doing this really nice line dance, boom, they end with a real physical punch. I mean, if you're a football fan and an old school guy who loves to watch a running game or offensive lineman just engage and knock the snot out of people, that's going to give you goosebumps. That's what you want to see from your offensive line. The chemistry, moving together, knowing who to block, when to block them, the timing of the footwork. You know, the starters from last year who are still returning. You have Justin Diedich, Cortland Ford, Gino Quinones, Mason Murphy, Jonah Monheim. All those guys were starters last year at some point. We know that, Justin and Jonah and Cortland, they started the season as part of the original starting five. So they worked together. And then Mason Murphy and Gino Quinones, they were part-time starters in 2022, mostly due to injuries and, filling up. They were the next man up. So if we were to forecast out of that group of players that I mentioned in 2023 for Gino, Diedich, Jonah, and Murphy, left to right, your left tackle, Cortland Ford, Gino Quinones left guard, Justin Diedich is going to be your starting center, Jonah Monheim, let's move him inside at right guard, and then Mason Murphy at your right tackle. Excuse me. Where are you with that starting five? If I was to ask you, hey, are you good with that? That's who's going to protect Caleb Williams in 2023? Better yet, here's the rhetorical question. How are Lincoln Riley and Josh Henson with those guys as their starting five? Well, so far, through the transfer portal, Riley, and they brought in 3 former starters, offensive linemen at Power 5 programs. Jarrett Kingston, starting at Washington State. Ethan White, starting at Florida. Michael Tarquin, starting at Florida. That's a tackle, that's a guard, that's a tackle for going left to right. So Ethan White, for technical reasons, he's not going to be available during spring camp. Roster spot availability. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of it. They needed a roster spot available on the 85-man roster. And as we know, there was a couple of guys in the portal who still haven't found homes yet. So I guess if you answered the rhetorical part of that question to yourself with, well, you're good with Jonah and Diedich, and mostly with Cortland Ford at left tackle, does the staff feel okay with those guys? That's what it comes down to. As I mentioned, injuries played a role last year with the offensive line. Well, Lincoln Riley and Josh Henson felt it would be prudent to bring in at least 3 guys through the transfer portal so far. And you have to ask yourself, is Mason Murphy, is he ready to seize the moment? I mean, he was given chances last season. Physically, he looks like your right tackle. Big, tall, lanky, long, the guy you want to mold into your prototypical right tackle. So it's not physical with him. I think with most young people, sometimes it's between the ears. We'll see if Mason's ready to take the next step in the maturation process. Are they solid with Cortland Ford at left tackle? I mean, we have to ask this question. Everyone's rooting for him. I know I am. Last year, when Cortland got hurt, he came back. He was struggling with the playing weight. It was, they wanted to put on more weight. Did they want him to lose the weight? Whatever it was, he was up and down, and I think it affected his play on the field with his weight being yo-yoed back and forth like that. Gino, what about Gino Quinones and the other guys from the 2020 offensive line class? It's pretty deep. Again, they brought in Ethan White. You've got a lot of young guards who are sitting on USC's roster. Let's not forget last year when Cortland Ford was healthy, and Bobby Haskins went down with an injury. It wasn't Ford who went back in at starting at left tackle. They actually tried Mason Murphy ahead of him. So again, we have to kind of read the tea leaves. What's going on in the offensive line room? Why did Riley and Henson feel it was necessary to go out and bring in 3 former starters when they've got a pretty good young core of offensive linemen? Granted, they didn't recruit them, but a pretty solid group nonetheless. So I guess the bottom line is, how's the room's chemistry going to set? How's the room going to smell with that chemistry set, I guess, if 3/5 of the starting line in 2023 are transfers? I think everyone assumes that Jonah and Justin are going to be starting on offensive line. Justin at center, Jonah probably at right guard. We're going to stay with the 19 more days theme in our next segment. But first, we got to talk about Built Bar, because if you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. You really do. And if you're like me, you know you got to eat healthy, but you also know you like your stuff to taste good. Well, then if you're like me, you like your stuff to taste good, and you don't really always care about health. Trust me, you got to try Built Bar. They're really good. They're healthy and they're tasty. And they've got some really cool flavors we're going to talk about here in a moment. But what makes Built Bars really good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. There's one flavor. Everybody loves chocolate. I love chocolate. And they also come in flavors like churro and peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. And I'm not sure how they do it, but Built does it. They make them taste great, and they maintain all their macros. What are their macros? Well, they're only 130 calories. They're only filled with 4 grams of sugar, and you're going to get a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't even have to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Not anymore. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head on over to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and then grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or their coconut puffs. Or if you're near a Sam's Club, run in, grab a 13-bar box, and they have their hit flavors of brownie batter and churro. Thank me later. Let me know. All right. First, I'm going to let you know. I want to thank you all again for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. I want to make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. It's everything you need to know about college basketball in one place. And you're going to hear it from the big name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. I know the USC men's team took a dump over the weekend. Check out the women's team. Lindsey Gottlieb has got the Lady Trojans. They're balling. They're a lot better than I think people anticipated. They knocked off Stanford at home. Go check them out, and I will too. All right. So Sunday marked the 20-day countdown to the start of spring camp. And as I spoke about in yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, the WeAreSC staff, we put together a top 20 list, so to speak, of the most intriguing not least intriguing, but the 20 most intriguing players in spring camp. Reminder, here's my list real quick. From most intriguing down to who I'm intrigued by, but he's probably the least that intrigues me. So again, Caleb Williams, Mason Cobb, Anthony Lucas, Tackett Curtis, Kion Bars, Damani Jackson, Corey Foreman, Rajon Davis, Cortland Ford, number 12, Tyrone Taleni, number 11, Zachariah Branch, 10, Rayleigh Brown, 9, Zion Branch at 8, Dorian Singer at 7, Romello Height At 6, Christian Roland Wallace, number 5. Shane Lee at number 4. Marshawn Lloyd, number 3. Devin Tompkins, number 2. And we spoke about Mekhi Lemon on yesterday's episode. So, today, WeAreSC's list. So, we're going to stick with the offensive line. Go figure. As I mentioned yesterday, for the WeAreSC list, it was Justin Dietich. The reason he didn't make my list, he played 930 snaps. He was only flagged twice. My confidence level in Justin Dietich is supreme. That dude, like I said, and he plays through injuries, and he pulls 18-wheelers in the offseason. I have zero concern with Justin Dietich. But, as I mentioned, the WeAreSC list is staying on the same tangent. It was an offensive lineman. This one made my list. I said number 12. So let me explain my intrigue on why Courtland Ford is on this list. And it's obviously mine is a moderate concern to the group's minimal concern. For me, with Ford, this goes back to what I was talking about in the previous segment. If the staff is secure with Courtland Ford and Mason Murphy at the tackles, remember, I mentioned it in the previous segment. When Courtland Ford started the season at left tackle, he was 1A, Bobby Haskins was 1B. They rotated in and out as the season went along. However, we know that injuries affected both of them throughout the season. When Bobby Haskins got injured and Courtland Ford was presumably healthy enough to play again, it was Mason Murphy who they slid over to left tackle in front of Courtland Ford. So last year they brought in Bobby Haskins to compete at left tackle. We had that 1A and 1B situation between him and Ford. This year they're bringing in Jarrett Kingston from Washington State, who many presume is going to be challenging from that left tackle spot. He could also play inside as well, though. Just want to make that very clear. But 1 + 1 for me equals 2. In this case, 2 years in a row, that they're bringing somebody in to compete at that left tackle spot. The message is clear. Courtland's being told, you got to step up your game. They told this to him last year. And here's the thing about Courtland. This is what I love about him. He doesn't complain. He just works his ass off. I mean, if you have any type of presence on social media or you follow USC over at WeAreSC.com, you've probably seen film of Courtland working out in the weight room. Dude's an animal. Check out his Instagram or his Instagram feed. Dude's always working out. Zero schoolwork issues with this young man. He's got his head screwed on right. He knows what he wants, and he's going after it. So if it's, is it a talent thing with Courtland? Is that what the coaches see? Is it a camaraderie thing? I haven't heard anything to suggest that he doesn't get along with his teammates. Nothing of that. But, you just got to throw out, what could it be that a 4-star, you guys who like the rankings, starting left tackle isn't just blowing away his head coach and position coach. Makes you wonder. Excuse me. And I'm sure Caleb Williams is going to have a say in the matter since, the left tackle is, his blindside protector. Here's the thing with Caleb. I don't even know if he needs a blindside protector. Sometimes it feels like he's got eyes in the back of his helmet all on his own. So that's who that was on the WeAreSC list. It was Cortland Ford. Cortland was number 12 on my list. Let me tell you who was number 19 for me. Devin Tompkins, the redshirt freshman defensive end, rush end. I don't know how you want to designate him in Alex Finch's defense. Here's what I know. Excuse me. I watched that guy's body develop from the day he arrived at USC to one day during fall practice last year. I saw him walk across McClintock over to Howard Jones Field from the McKay Center. I was like, whoa, where did that guy grow up? He filled out in a good way. And you're going to need him to, because we need someone to fill in Tuli Tuiapelotu's void, who's off to the NFL now. So why not Devin Tompkins, right? Last year when he arrived, they had him listed at 6'5", 230. Well, these eyeballs, he's a legit 250, 260 plus right now. And if he's going to play rush end, defensive end, here's his competition: Corey Foreman, Romello Height, Jameel Muhammad, the transfer from Georgia State, the two freshmen incoming, Braylon Shelby and David Peavy. And you got the two more transfers: Jack Sullivan, Purdue, Anthony Lucas, Texas A&M. All of a sudden, that defensive end, edge, rush, Roy Manning's group, pretty deep. Pretty deep. A lot of competition in that room now. Hopefully everybody can stay healthy. That was the issue last year. So can Tompkins emerge out of this group and, get some rotation work in 2023? He's the guy I'm going to be keeping an eye on during spring camp. He was number 19 on my list. Number 18 will come up on tomorrow's episode of Locked on USC. But first, we are going to talk about FanDuel. Yep, Super Bowl's over, football's over. That doesn't mean you're going to stop paying attention to sports, right? It's the midway point of the NBA season, and so now it's the perfect time to download FanDuel, because they're America's #1 sports book. Why do you want to do it? Let me tell you why. Because customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Whoa. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Okay, not bad. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, and it's super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to the point scores, threes drained. You got to love those prop bets, right? Now, normally this is a part of the where I would talk about the Lakers, but LeBron is still a Laker, so I'm boycotting the Lakers until he's no longer a part of the team. So going forward, you can still bet with FanDuel because it'll let you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. One of these days, I'm going to bet on the Lakers again. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So last night I mentioned Ju Ju Smith-Shuster getting his Super Bowl ring. I apologize to Ronald Jones. I forgot to mention he's got a second one. Rojo was on the Chiefs roster as well. He has 2 rings now. He got his first one 2 years ago with Tampa when they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So, moral of the story, Rojo wins. Super Bowl 2 times. Look at that one. Ooh, look at that. What does that mean? Hint. I'll tell you what that means. Juju, when he got his ring, he became the 50th Trojan with a Super Bowl ring. That's more than any other school in the history of the Super Bowl of college football. You combine those two. So we know that USC is known as tailback U, wide receiver U, Heisman U, NFL U. That's right, the most number one overall draft picks ever. Let's now just go ahead and add Lombardi Trophy U to the resume. And don't think for a second that this isn't going to resonate with recruits, because they're seeing a lot of recent Trojans get their finger sized for a Super Bowl ring. So this is what's really great about this is Juju loves USC, and he is going to rep big time. He's going to flash that ring to everybody. He loves LA. He loves USC. So what I would suggest is somebody, please, anybody, help Juju out with his pregame wardrobe. I mean, I think kilts are really cool if you're going to go to a punk show and slam dance, or, you know, maybe fight with Mel Gibson in a Scottish war movie. But yeah, it was a different look that Juju had as he arrived to the stadium for the Super Bowl yesterday. But hey, he's a Super Bowl champion. He can wear whatever the hell he wants, because, like I said, he's a Super Bowl champion. So there you go. That's it for this show. I'm out of things to talk about. But Locked On USC comes at you 5 days a week. So I will be back again with another episode tomorrow. But once again, thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Don't forget to go check out Locked On College Basketball. They have everything you need to know. College basketball, from the insiders, players, coaches, you name it, all in one place. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Same as Locked On USC. So until our next episode, everyone, you know what to do.